Welcome back to the Clegger and Coffrin Classroom. Today is Thursday, April 9th, and it's a big day because we're going to be reading our Letterbook story in Letterbook V. I'm going to introduce you to the title of our story. So the title of our story for this week is Tig. Tig is ill. Uh-oh. Tig is ill. FLS&Z rule. 2 L's followed by short vowel ill. 2 letters, but only 1 sound. So before we begin our story, I want to tell you that Doll appears in our story, Tadpole appears in our story, Ed appears in our story, and Flitz. But we know that the main character in our story is actually Tig. And we know that because his name is in the title. And he will appear in every scene in our story. Tig is ill. Before we begin, we're going to go over some sight words that appear in our vocabulary this week. In fact, most of our vocabulary in our story is made up of sight words. Remember, sight words are sometimes called popcorn words because they pop up frequently. We want to be able to look at them and say them immediately. In other words, we want to memorize them. However, what's interesting about the sight words in this week's story are that they are all decodable, which means that you can actually tap them out if you need to. So if you haven't memorized them, go ahead and tap them out and you'll be able to actually read them. I want you to work on getting them down with memorization so you can look at them and immediately say them without having to read them. But let's go over them. First one is as, has, is, his, is. Next one is must, but, him, fat, from, sits, up, gets, tells. Again, FLS&Z rule. L follows short sound for E, so 2 L's, tells. All right, let's read them. Has, his, is, must, but, him, fat, from, sits, up, gets, tells. So that is some of the vocabulary that we're going to be seeing in our story called Tig is ill. I want you to go get your Letterbook V so you can look at the illustrations with me. So sometimes it's helpful to read a story with just the pictures first, using our eyes to look at each caption and see what's in the illustration, because it can often inform us as to the words that we're going to be reading and what is happening in the story. So first we're going to look at the pictures, then I'm going to go back and I'm going to read it to you. And then tonight you will read to an adult in your household the story of Tig is ill. So when I look at the first picture, I see Tig and he's in bed and he has some strange rag tying around his head. I also see a box of tissue and a glass that looks empty. It looks like he might have been coloring. I see some crayons over there. And Tig is not smiling, and Tig is usually smiling. So I'm thinking, either Tig is really unhappy or he doesn't feel great today. In the next picture, I see Doll standing beside him. And what's interesting is Doll has on a hat that I've seen a nurse wear. So I'm wondering if she is playing nurse and taking care of Tig. I see her holding his pillow. I wonder what she's doing with his pillow. Then I come down to this picture and I notice that there's water coming off Tig's head, like he might be sweating. And Doll is holding a thermometer. You may have had your parents take your temperature before when you weren't feeling well, and they used a device called a thermometer. It reads the temperature of your body. Next, I see Tig sitting on the edge of his bed, and I see Ted holding a glass of water. In the next picture, I see Ed has arrived, and I see Ed has some flowers, and it looks like a melting ice cream cone behind his back. In the next picture, I see that Tig is licking the ice cream cone, and he looks like he might be feeling a little bit better. Oh no, I see sweat coming off his head again, and Doll is looking at his temperature, and it looks like Flit has come to visit as well. Now I see that Tig's eyes are closed, and I see that Flit is lighting up. I wonder what's happening in that last picture. Let's go back and look at the text and see how it informs our picture. Excuse me, now that we've looked at all the illustrations. Remember we have two picture words in our story. When we see Tig's face, we're going to say face. We're just going to say the word face. And over here, I see a picture of a pillow. So I'm going to say the word pillow when I see that. Tig has the mumps. Tig has the mumps. You may not have ever heard of that illness, but a long time ago, it was a very common illness for children to get. You would get something called the mumps. It was sort of similar to like the chicken pox. And when you would get it, your face would swell up and your cheeks would get really big. And that was one symptom of having the mumps. So we know that Tig has the mumps. It says Tig has the mumps. His face is fat. His face is fat. Tig must rest. Tig must rest. Doll fluffs the pillow. Doll fluffs the pillow. But Tig cannot nap. Tig is hot. Tig gets a glass from Ted. Tig sips from the glass. Ed visits. Ed visits Tig. Ed has gifts. Tig sits up. Tig has the vanilla ice cream cone. It is not hot, but Tig is still hot. Tig must rest. Doll tells Flit. Flit helps Tig. Flit fans him. Tig can rest at last. Interesting. So let's go back to the beginning of our story. What is wrong with Tig? Do you remember what's wrong with him? Right, he has the mumps. How does his face look? Let's find the word that tells us how his face looks. It looks fat. So his face is swollen. It's fat because he has the mumps. And the next picture, what is Doll doing? Do you remember what she was doing? She's fluffing his pillow. So I don't know if you've ever been in bed for a while and your pillow starts getting really flat and not comfortable. So she's fluffing it up so it'll feel a little fresher and more comfortable under his head. It says that he cannot nap. He needs to rest, but he cannot. Why do you think he cannot rest? Do you remember why he can't rest? He's hot. He has a fever. His temperature is above 98.6, which is normal for the body. So his temperature is higher than that. And so he has a fever and he's sweating. So he can't rest. He's not comfortable. So what does Ted do for him? Ted goes and gets a glass of water so that Tig might drink the water and cool down his body. Then Ed shows up. What does Ed bring? Do you remember what Ed brings? He brings two gifts. He brings flowers and a vanilla ice cream cone. That must be Tig's favorite flavor. Who comes to visit him next? Flit. We see Flit and Doll looking at Tig. But it says he is still hot. So in that sense, still means that it's continuing. It didn't stop. He didn't cool off. He's still hot. So he must rest. He has to do that in order to get better. So Flit has an idea. Remember that I said that fanning is when you move air around? So Flit is using her wings to move air and fan Tig. And it says that he can rest at last. So you know what that means? That Flit's fanning worked. It cooled Tig off, and now he's able to rest comfortably. So you'll read tonight, Tig is ill. I want you to read this story multiple times until you can read it with ease. And then you're going to turn over to page 12. You have some sentences to read, and you're going to circle the correct answer. Let's do the first one together. So the first one, I see a picture of Tig and a picture of Ted. So our choices are either Tig or Ted. Has the mumps. Has the mumps. Do you remember who has the mumps? It's in the title of our story. Tig. Tig is ill. He is the one that has the mumps. So you'll circle Tig and you would reread that. Tig has the mumps. Next one says fluffs the pillow. You have to decide whether Flit or Doll fluffs the pillow. Tig gets a glass from Doll or Ted. Tig gets flowers from Ted or Ed. Tig gets vanilla ice cream from Ed or Ted. Flit or Doll fans Tig. So you'll circle the correct answer using a 2 o'clock dot. Then you're going to flip over to leg problems. You're going to be reading the sentence and circling the correct answer. We're going to read these three together. We're going to do the first one together, but I want you to do the rest independently. Ed cut his leg on the glass or the glass. Do you cut your leg on a class or a glass? The answer is glass. Glass. So we'll circle glass. The next sentence is Ted has a bump or a dump on his leg. Doll's leg has red spots or tops. Tig's leg is in a fast or a cast. So you have to circle the correct answer. Remember that apostrophe S means that something belongs to someone. So it's Doll's leg and it's Tig's leg. So today you will be reading the story of Tig is Ill on pages 10 and 11 and then complete pages 12 and 13. Tomorrow you will do pages 14, 15, and 16. On page 14, you will just be writing upper and lowercase v. Remember to space in between your two letters. So, your pair of letters. So you'll do uppercase, lowercase, space, uppercase, lowercase, space, uppercase, lowercase, space, v. Then you have some violets here. You'll cut out your violets and mix them into the bouquet of flowers that you have up here. Then you'll turn over, and I have a surprise for you. Tomorrow, Mrs. Coffran will read the story of the city mouse and the country mouse to you, and she will assist you on completing the comprehension pages. So that's what you'll be doing tomorrow and Friday. And tomorrow's the end of our week, so I look forward to seeing you tomorrow and Friday. Have a great evening and read Tig is Ill.